Good morning. It is Friday morning, and the reason I actually have this silly filter up is because I woke up 25 minutes ago. I know. Can you believe it? The dogs woke up at 5:30. I'm like, okay, I'm going back to bed for like an hour. I woke up at 8:35. I have showered and shaved, and I am here in 25 minutes. I am so excited for this Ask Me Anything. Are you? Because you get to ask me anything. It is wide open. So, let's get started. That should be a lot of fun. So this morning, I was asked a few questions, and I want to definitely go over those before we get to some live stuff, but you're going to definitely see me look tired today. Have some coffee. Not my usual stuff, but when you wake up 25 minutes before you go live, your face really doesn't have time to de-swell, and I'll probably be sniffling because everybody in my house has been dealing with a cold this week but me. So I'm pretty sure it's my time. But on today's Ask Me Anything, I am walking into this with 3 questions that have already been asked. So let's start with those. I'm going to start with the first one, which was about how do grandparents deal with this? And the reason I'm starting with that one first is simply because the answer is going to be, I'm going to say, the shortest. Because grandparents need to remember that they are not the ones who are raising the child. And I know that can be really hard because their generation, they were the ones who were told, children are to be seen and not heard, that it's you do as you say, not as I do. And so they feel as though their way is right. I mean, don't we all feel as though our way is right? Of course we do. But their generation was definitely much more authoritative. That is, their parents were in the military, a lot of them. It was World War II, baby boomers, all of that stuff. So they have a different take on this. So the best advice that I can give for grandparents is, A, remember they're not your children. And B, remember they're being raised in a completely different world. So if you're about my age, that means your parents are in their 60s and 70s. Well, their world that they seem to cling on to, and what most people seem to cling on to, is their late teens, early 20s. Whether it comes to hairdos, I mean, who has not seen the woman out there with the 1970s, feathered look, or the 1980s crazy big hair, right? Or the 90s grunge. We all see it, where especially women seem to just get stuck, or men. What is that? They never change their hairdos. What is up with that? Anyway, so they get stuck in a time period that in this case is 5 decades ago. Twiggy is no longer what's in. They need to understand that the world that they lived in is gone. It does not exist. It might exist at different senior centers and places where other people are like them, but it does not exist for their grandchild. And chances are they have more in common with someone their own age than their grandchild, and their grandchild will have something more in common with a 7-year-old from India. Yeah. Okay. Their world, meaning the child's world, is moving so much faster than the grandparents' world ever did. In the grandparents' world, you could still sort of relate to different types of trends that were happening. They could relate to their grandparents. Maybe they didn't wear. My mom loves to tell the story of where her grandmother told her to, she had to wear a corset. And my mom's not a very large-breasted woman. And her grandfather was like, well, she needs to have something first before it goes in there. But the point being is they might have had different things that they wore, but they didn't have completely different cultures. They didn't have completely different worlds. They do now. The technological age has taken the children and just advanced them way beyond what grandparents can even begin to fathom. Hey, good morning, Maria. And so for a grandparent, my advice is try to enter the best you can into the world of your grandchild. Get out of your comfort zone. Maybe learn a little bit about their video games. But remember, you're not the one raising them. And how your child chooses to raise your grandchild is your child's business. It's not yours. So take a step back. Enjoy them as grandchildren. Go play with them. Go do things with them. Ask them about their world. Enter into their world, and then you can teach them a bit about your world. Kids love to do hands-on things. You could teach them to sew. You could teach them to make cookies, all of that stuff. But remember, you live in different worlds. Don't try to bring them to yours. You need to step out of your comfort zone and enter into theirs. Well, good morning, Miss Maria. You missed the intro. Excuse my sniffles here. I actually literally woke up at 8:35 today. The dogs got me up at 5:30, and I went back to bed thinking I'd sleep for like an hour to bring the car to the shop. No, 3 hours later, 8:35. So I still have sleepy, swollen face and sniffles because everybody in my house has been sick. So you're actually going to probably see me drink this coffee because normally by the time I get on, I've already been awake for 3 hours and I've had my couple cups of coffee. No, you're seeing Mary like first thing up, shower, shit, and shaved in 25 minutes and a piece of toast. I know, go figure. Like, I feel like Wonder Woman this morning. Sorry, otherwise I'm going to make no sense. So the other question, so we've dealt with the grandparent question. I had 2 other questions I would love to cover. And Maria, you hop in anytime you want, okay? One of the questions was, where do I start? How do I start being a parent who partners with their child? And that's also such a great question. The answer is, honestly, you start with yourself, okay? And the question that tags onto that, I'm going to sort of put them together, all right? The other question that I got asked was, well, how do you talk so your kids will listen? I've read that book. It really kind of sucked, okay? Anyway, so I'm going to put the 2 questions together, and the questions were, where do you start and how do you talk? Because the answer is combined. So where you start is always with yourself. You have to heal your own issues from your own childhood and stop being a reactive child parent. What I mean by that is you have to stop acting like the child. And a lot of us, I know I did. Like, my kid would get pissed, I'd get pissed. Who's in charge? Okay. Where's the safety coming from? If the adult is still reacting to the child's just going to keep acting in a way that says, where are my boundaries? Where are my boundaries? Where do I go? So if the child is totally, girl, get it, I'm not dressed. Oh, I could have come on in my pajamas and my bathrobe. I mean, that would have been awesome. They're a pink candy stripe. They're really kind of cute, but it was kind of a scary sight. But, so for me, it's really a matter of you have to heal yourself, because if you are still extremely broken, you cannot help someone else heal and move forward. If you have a broken leg, how are you going to help someone else walk through the forest, right? You kind of can't. So you at least have to put a splint on yourself. You have to stop and say, okay, where in my life do I need to work on me? What buttons are pushed? Why do I react? And what pain does that cause inside of me? And how can I parent myself? Because really, I'm so glad you love this topic. Until you start to do that, you can't. You have to go back, parent yourself, and love that little person. I actually had to go back and love little Mary. So my parents were not abusive parents. They were very busy parents, and they were raised in a situation that was very dysfunctional. My mother's mother had 3 kids in 30 months, and she has bipolar. In the 40s and 50s, where there was no medication. So she would stay in bed until, for weeks at end. And 2-year-old Valerie was in charge of 1-year-old Jamie and 3-year-old Ginny. That's a messed up childhood. Okay, it's totally messed up. My father, his mother died when he was 15. He had 5 siblings. He got told that his mother was on the way to the hospital to die and he had to finish his paper route. What the hell? Who the hell does that? Well, his father had a 3rd grade education and worked 3 jobs. People do that because they're broken. Okay? So all our parents could do was repeat the brokenness of their life. All we have done is then repeat the brokenness of our life. I actually used to keep a diary. My mom found it once, got totally pissed off. She says she didn't read it, but I know she did because she told me she got mad at it. I used to keep a log of what I would never do as a parent. Things that totally pissed me off. And things that I liked. The things that I liked was 1 page. The rest of it was page after page after page of things I hated that my parents did. All right, because I was determined to break the cycle. Now, they weren't negligent. They didn't beat me. They didn't, nothing like that. I got the old, I'll give you something to cry about line. Really? Really? So, whatever trauma was done to you belongs to you. It doesn't belong to your child. It doesn't belong to your spouse. It actually doesn't even belong to your parents, because how you interpreted it completely belongs to you. Because what they did, I'm sure, except if we fostered children in their teens, so I know that there are some really batshit crazy parents out there that sell their kids for drug money, that do horrible things. Okay, so I'm going to take those parents out of this equation, because if you're on this, you're not one of those. So unless you are a parent that really wants to destroy your child because you are so selfish you cannot see beyond your own need, you need to look at yourself and decide what is yours and what isn't. Okay, Maria says, I grew up with a mom in bed. I have 3 kids under 3, but I'm not repeating my childhood. I have done so much to heal from my past. See, that's really the key. And you're going to keep that pain. It becomes like a scar, okay? I have my own scars from what happened in my childhood and my interpretation of them through the lens of a child. And that's one thing you really need to remember, is that it's through the lens of a child that you see this. So can you go back and observe, almost like a third party, as an adult, go back in your memory and not feel it, but observe what it is that you see happening and say, okay, I can see how my parent felt this way. I know why I felt that way. What could I do differently? Because you're going to hit the same situations. Children, human behavior is still human behavior. We have not advanced beyond typical standard human behavior. We are still in our souls, hunters and gatherers. We are still looking for approval. We are still looking to go out and be loved, have love, and give love. That is basic human need. We want approval, we want love, we want safety. None of that has changed. The rest of the world around us has changed. How we interact in it has changed, but not our basic needs. Okay? And that comes to the next question, which was, well, how do I talk so my kids will listen? I need a coffee sip for this one. Hold on. My husband makes the best coffee, and he worked from home on Fridays. Yay! Well, how do you talk so your kids will listen? You don't talk at them, and you don't talk to them. Do you like to be talked to or talked at? I don't. I don't even do that to my friends. I don't do it to my spouse. I talk with them. Do you yell constantly? Are you constantly in this big 5-level voice and screaming at them? Like when I was 26, I lived in a neighborhood and I had a stepson named Zach, and he was friends with this whole group of kids. They were all little boys. All of their names started with a CH, go figure. And their mom was constantly yelling. I mean, just all the time, yelling. Don't do this, stop this, blah, 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 blah. And giving commands. And I would simply just walk up to one of our kids and say, hey, can you please not do that? It endangers someone else. And she'd be like, how did you get him to listen? Well, shit, bitch, I talked to him with respect. That's how I got him to listen. So when you respect your child as an individual, that's when they start to listen. You have to remember that you have to actually give them their voice. We have been raised in a society that was created for the industrial age. And that means that we tend to think of people as things. And what do I mean by that? We think, how can we get the most out of them? Okay? Yuck, I used to be a yeller. I'm an old yeller. Oh, that's hysterical. I used to be a yeller too. And you know what? They didn't listen. And the glare is driving me crazy. Okay, you're just going to see really tired Mary now. And I used to lose my temper. And I used to be I would say out of control. My child feared me. And that's not a way that I wanted to live. It's not a way that felt good. It was just I felt that's what I had to do because that's what society said to do. Society says, and doctors and experts, everyone says, treat your child like a thing. You have to control it. You have to manage it. Manage. Okay, so what does manage mean? Manage means that you have to control, that you have to manipulate, and that you are responsible for the outcome. Okay? Are you really responsible for the outcome of your children? No. They have free choice. If I was repeating how I was raised, well, so was I. I really was. Either my mother didn't talk at all, or my dad yelled. That's how anger was handled in my home. And that was not a healthy way. Neither one is healthy. So ignoring you have emotions and not putting boundaries down and being stepped on, not healthy. Yelling about things, again, not healthy. Still, there's no actual communication. There might be volume, but there's no communication. There's a difference between volume and communication. Communication gives you an alternative. It gives you your voice. It allows you an opinion. It gives you solutions. Volume does none of that. Volume is just verbal diarrhea of bullshit. It's all about me. Me. Well, are you raising you or are you raising your child? Wake up. So you want to know how to talk so your child will listen? Respect them. Remember that they have a mind, a body, a soul, and a voice. It's your job to teach them how to use this voice. to respect their mind, to encourage their spirit, and to respect their body. We tend to forget that. We think, well, my child needs to have this on a test or else they're not going to get into that college. Maybe college isn't going to be for them. Is college about them or is college about you? Is what they do about growing themselves and those 4 parts of themselves, or is it about you? What they wear in public, is that about you? No, you can't go out like that. That doesn't look good. Really, who's that about? You or them? Maybe they feel really fucking confident in it. Maybe they've put their pants on backwards. I'm assuming they're like 2 in this, all right? And their shoes are on the wrong feet. And maybe their shirt is inside out and polka dots and they're wearing stripes, flowers, and I don't know what else. Stripes, flowers, plaid, right? And they're all just horrible colors. Yeah, I let my child go out like that. And sure, I got lots of looks. And everybody gave me that look. I would very proudly put my hand on her shoulder and say, she dressed herself today. Isn't that amazing? She was able to make decisions for herself. And Sarah would just beam. She was like, oh, you have to give them their pride. You have to give them their voice. It is our job as parents to raise the next generation. Do you really want to keep repeating what hurts you? Really? Because that's what you're doing. And by doing nothing, or by managing your children, this is even better, by managing your children rather than leading your children, okay? So a leader is someone who finds solutions, encourages, and lifts up, okay? So you have a manager who controls and manipulates and is responsible for doing things right, okay? Then you have a leader, and the manager is all about process. It's all about process to create, right? Then you have a leader who's about lifting up, encouraging, moving forward, and doing the right thing. So what's more important? Doing the right thing or doing it right? Yeah. What do you really want? Are you a manager or are you a leader? If you're a manager, this is why you have problems with your children. Because you're trying to micromanage, you're trying to manage them, you're trying to control them, you're trying to make them an object. They're not an object. They're a living, breathing human being that has feelings and emotions and thoughts and a voice that is desperate to be heard. When you are a manager and when you manage your children, they become codependent. Now think about this for a second. All right. So what does that mean, that they become codependent? Well, when you manage your children, you expect them to do as you say, right? Many of them will complacently do that. They learn that they do not have an opinion, a voice, a say in their life. So they will just go along with whatever it is that you say, what the teacher says, what the boss says. Now, for some people, this causes no issues, right? Yeah, I worked on my codependent issues. I went to CODA meetings for a couple of years. I was like, no, not going to do this shit. My parents are so codependent, it drives me crazy. They live with me. And I'm like, nope, guys, codependent, can't go there. Close the door. That's your apartment. This is my house. Love them dearly, but nope, not my thing. There's a difference between codependent and independent, or codependent and interdependent, okay? But for this discussion, we're going to talk about codependency and how it causes a complacency. Hey, good morning, Crystal. How are you? So we are talking about, you have the workbook, that's awesome. We're talking about codependency and the difference between managing your child and being a leader for your child. And so right now I'm discussing how when you are a manager of your child, you want to do what's right? You want to get it right. Managing is all about getting it done right and being able to control, to manipulate, and you control the outcome, okay? Leading is all about lifting up someone, helping them get to where they want to do, or where they want to be, and being able to do what's right. Good morning, you're good. Oh, that's awesome. You're going to probably see me, Maria knows this, drink my coffee this morning. I woke up 25 minutes before the live show. My whole family's been sick all week, and I'm fighting it. So you're probably going to hear it, and you're going to hear me sniffle and drink coffee because I'm normally awake for 3 hours, and yet I'm not today. So back to codependency. So what happens is one of two things. You either have a child that becomes very complacent, my husband, who follows rules, my husband, who is very comfortable living in, hey, good morning, Manuel. Welcome from Germany. So you end up with someone who's very codependent, who is just doesn't think for themselves, who has lost their voice, who is sitting here despondent and unhappy and feeling like there's something wrong in their life, but they don't know why. And you as the parent, because you have to manage your child, you have to manage what they do, manage their time, manage the outcome, because you are responsible. And you've like taken this flag that says this is all mine and you're running with it. Your child's not learning any kind of responsibility. Your child is not learning to find their voice. You found yours because you're managing them, man. You're probably micromanaging like every moment of their life, and they're pissed at you because you're going to have one of two ways that they respond. You're going to have, they respond with, yes, Mom. Okay, I'll do that. And you watch your child shrink before your eyes, and that feels wrong. Or you're going to have the child that says, up yours. I'm going to do it my way. Because one of two things happens. You either get the codependent passive, or you get the very angry passive-aggressive that undermines, that gets malicious, that plans ways to get back at you. And they can wait decades. Like they will plan it out. They will sit back. Those are the ones that are snarky back to you. Those are the kids that are like, really? Yeah, well, I'm going to sneak out. I'm going to go do that. You tell me I can't do drugs? Well, F you. Like, I'm going to find a way to do it. Those are the kids that the parents say, oh my God, I don't know what to do. They're acting out. They're talking back to me. They're horrible. Well, yeah, do you know why? Because you tried to manage them. You didn't lead them. You didn't give them a voice. You did not respect their mind, their body, their soul, or their voice. You managed them. Who the hell wants to be managed? I don't want to be managed. I want to be led. I want someone to be my mentor. When you are someone's mentor and someone's leader, they will listen to you because you have that authority that they're going to listen. I was the rebel and my sister was the rule follower. See, there you go. Maria had it right in her own family. That codependency does it. Good morning, Becky. How are you? Man, I should save like all the juicy stuff for now. But, you know, I was in between. So I was the rule follower, but at the same time, like by the time I was 16, I was a rule follower probably until I was about 14. Then I discovered my voice. I discovered my redheaded voice. And I'm going to tell you what they say about redheads is pretty well true. If you light a fire under our ass, we are going to totally get back at you about it and give our opinion. And if you have a child who is very strong-willed and has what I'm going to call that redhead personality, you need to lead them, not manage them. You have to remember, people are not meant to be managed. Objects are meant to be managed, okay? You manage your checkbook. You manage your calendar. You manage your house. Excuse me. You don't manage a person. Sorry, my glasses are up here because there's horrible glare. I was in PETA and Amnesty International my last 2 years of high school. Were you really? That's awesome. Hello, vegan right here. Woo woo. Some of it is because of ethical reasons. Most of it is because of health reasons. But anyway, we're not going to get into that. I love Amnesty International. But you can go to one of two ways. You can, like I said, be the passive aggressive, or you're going to get the passive. And do you really want either? Like my husband is an expert at passive aggressive. I've actually had to learn lessons from him because I am totally not passive aggressive. I'm like in your face. I'm like, dude, man, you don't like this? I'm sorry. See you later. Okay, Maria says, because of my issues, my oldest got the worst of it. Yeah, that happens. I feel horrible about it. He displays that constant need for approval and forgiveness, even if he thinks I might be upset. Well, think about what can you do to make him more secure? How can you give him back his voice, Maria? He's asking for his voice from you. He's saying, Mom, where do I stand with this? And you know what? It's really okay to say, hey, I messed up. I'm so sorry. I've had to do that to Liz. Like the other day, I'm like, look, kid, I'm so sorry. I made some mistakes. I did the best I could with what I knew when I knew it. And when I knew better, I did better. I will never forget, there was one time I was really struggling because who Elizabeth was not who society said I should have as a child. I was living in a very upper middle class town full of jocks. And if you've seen The Stepford Wives, you know exactly what I'm talking about because it was actually modeled after that. And the remake, I can tell you exactly where that mansion is. And it's really kind of funny because it's right next to I-95 on one side and the police station right here and a children's museum right there. Anyway, Whole point being is the society there says everyone should go to college, everyone is white collar, no one can be different. Okay, let's see, Becky says, I tell people I'm not a mama bear raising cubs, but the mother of dragons that they breathe fire. Oh, God, that's hysterical. See, I tell people I'm not raising children, I'm raising adults. I'm raising people that are going out into the future. And so the society that we lived in was telling me who Elizabeth was wrong. That's very destructive. It's destructive to the parent, and it's destructive to the child. And I was reading one day, I was actually reading a gardening book, believe it or not, and I don't even like to garden. But it was saying how this farmer didn't like the tree that was growing, and he kept mowing it down. Like, I'm not going to let this tree grow. I'm not going to let it grow. Until a friend of his came over and said, you can keep mowing that tree down every single day, but it still is going to be an apple tree. You can mow it down, but it's still going to be an apple tree. Why can't you just enjoy it for what it is? Just because you wanted something different doesn't mean that what it is bad. And like this light bulb went off in my head. People who will change the world. Yes, exactly. They're going to change the world. That's the whole point of this. And in that moment, I realized that I was mowing down my child. Like every day without even meaning to. I was stripping her of her voice. I was stripping her of her authenticity. I was, without meaning to, telling her who she is isn't good enough. Because she's not who I thought she would be. Yeah. That pretty well sucked when I realized that. And I went to her and I'm like, I am so sorry. You make the most beautiful apple tree that you're going to be, and I'm going to rejoice in that apple tree that you are. I know the rest of the world wants you to be an oak tree, but girl, you're not. You're like a rainbow apple tree, and you go be your rainbow apple tree. And it took time for us to undo that damage. It really, really did. Now, Sarah's never had that experience. She's always been Sarah, because she got I'm going to say the better mommy, as Lizzie calls me. She got the mommy that knew better. Lizzie was like my rough draft, I think everybody's first child is the rough draft. They're like, yeah, that's what I fucked up on over there, and they're still breathing, and it's okay. Here's the second one that's even better, and as you go, you get better along the way. Or you get completely freaked out because you're way exhausted. I don't know. But anyway, so how to talk so that your kids will listen, because that was really, where do I start? How do I talk so my kids can listen? It basically comes down to this. Heal yourself. Admit when you're wrong. Be a leader, not a manager of your children, and give them their voice. It may not be your voice, but damn it, it's their voice. Let them have it, because if you don't allow it, they're going to get out in that world, and that world's going to eat them up. Okay, Becky says, but when you have this pattern and idea of normal, it's hard to break away from that. Absolutely it is. And understand, by doing this, by looking at partnering and parenting with your child, you're breaking away from that norm. You're breaking away from that norm paradigm. And that takes time, and it's also going to narrow your world about who understands you and who you want to spend time with. Because you are not going to want to spend time with those mamas over there that are managing their children and controlling their children, and it's all about them, and they're yelling at their kids, and your kids aren't going to want to spend time with them either. And you're going to be in situations where that happens. You're going to be like, oh shit, like what do I do? Where do I go? And you get to choose whether you're a manager in that moment or you're a leader in that moment. And those can be hard. And I'll be honest, it can be kind of lonely. Like finding your tribe that thinks the same way can be really hard. And are you willing and able to make that change? Because although maybe you're going to have this great relationship with your kid, are you ready, willing, and able to be different than society? Or are you going to be able to put it on and off? Like I can take it on and off. Not that I will ever disrespect my child again, but I can go into those snooty situations and I do a lot of nodding and a lot of listening and a lot of, oh, can you tell me more about that? Not that I really give a flying shit. I got to be honest. I really don't. But it makes the other person feel good. And at that point, they're a manager. They're not a leader. And how can I help them see that it can be done differently? I can still lead. I don't have to manage. So those were the 3 questions I got this morning before even starting, was how to do this as a grandparent, which was, remember, they are not your child and they live in a completely different world. So try to meet them in their world, come forward a little bit, and then maybe they can meet you in your world as a grandparent. The other was where to start. You start with yourself, okay? And then it was how do I talk so that they listen. You treat them like a person that has a body, mind, spirit, and soul and voice. All of that stuff. You don't treat them like an object. So I'm going to take your questions because I've answered everybody else's. So Maria says, I've taken 2.5 years of unschooling myself. Yes, and healing from my past to get where I am mentally. Tons of growing still happening. Oh my gosh, I've been doing this for 9 years and there's still growth happening. It's lifelong learning, right? Yes, lifelong learning about myself. And I find I often even have to continually de-school myself. And I'm like, whoa, like, why aren't they? What? Nope, what? Take a step back. De-school, Mary. De-school, de-school. Okay. Crystal says, when I was growing up, my parents raised me based on how the doctor specialist told them to raise me. And looking back, I feel was the best choice. And if they never should, for example, when doctor told them when I was acting up to put me in, I'm going to say the room, close the door and lock it out. But, oh no, I couldn't see it. I couldn't see the rest of it. I used to raise Elizabeth the way that the doctors told me. Put her in timeout, put her in her room, get her separated. Well, she has anxiety disorder, and she has depression, and she has bipolar. You don't just wake up one day with bipolar. Oh yeah, it wasn't the right way. And so when I was listening to the experts about how to raise her, now understand I was a single mom, had a very abusive ex-husband whose name was OJ. If you were alive in 1996, you completely understand what that means. All right, and everybody was telling me, give her meds. So I did because she was out of control, right? And she was 6. And so I was like, okay, I was desperate to try something. I mean, at 4 years old, she broke my ribs because she came at me head down because I said no to a bicycle the week before Christmas. Why did I say no? I already had the fucking bike, okay? It was like being stored for Christmas Day. So she was this itty-bitty little thing with a huge freaking temper. She had been molested by her biological father. She had PTSD from that. She had major, major issues. You don't wake up one day and have bipolar. You have it your whole life. I will tell you that puberty makes it worse, but you still have it. There was something definitely off with my child. She was not a standard issue child. And so when I followed what the doctor said, it destroyed her, it destroyed me, and it destroyed our relationship. And what really was a pivotal moment that made me realize this is if you've seen some of the other videos, you'll know this, that I lost my temper and I threw a knife in the sink and it came right back out at her. And I was doing exactly what the experts said to do. Now, if that was what they wanted me to do, was send her to a room and completely alienate her all the time, what was she learning? She was learning not to trust me. She was learning not to know that I would keep her safe. She was learning that I was a crazy ass bitch and that she had no one. How freaking frightening at 7 years old to feel that you have no one. Yeah. So that's when I started to evaluate and say, really, what do these experts know? Why do they say this is what you do? And I started doing research into like how the brain works and what that actually does. Like, I've never let my children cry it out. It physically hurts me when my children cry. Physically hurts. I cannot handle it. But then I learned about all the damage that does and how it sets off cortisol levels and how it kills their endorphins and everything in their body. And I started doing all this research about, well, what happens when we put them in timeout? What happens when they spank? I was a spanker because that's what people said to do. Spank your kid. That keep them in line. Man, I'd like spank Elizabeth and know what she'd do. She'd be, come on, bring it on, bitch. Let's go. Go ahead. Go do that. But yet at school, she was this meek little thing that anybody could push around. But at home, she was like this, fuck you, bitch. And so I remember talking to her and being like, hey, you know what? You need to use that attitude at school, not with me. Okay, Crystal says, they don't always know what's best to the child when they have different needs. Yes. And that's really what I did. Attachment parent who did child-led weaning. Yeah, Becky, exactly. And like my heart always said that was right, but society always said that was wrong. And I had to get to the point where I was strong enough in myself to stop being a manager of my child and become the leader. Because I was destroying her. And she was my everything. Like, she's why I left an abusive husband, not for myself. No, I didn't leave for myself. I wasn't strong enough to do that. But I left because I didn't want her to see that life. I didn't want her to see her father beating her mother. I didn't have enough pride in myself. I didn't have enough love for myself at that time. At this point now, I'd be like, fuck you. You think you're going to do that? But no, I don't think so. But at 28, after years and years and years of bullying and going through the school system and all the damage that did, I was beaten down. So here I was. Let's see, I had her at 26. So if she was 7, I was like, what, like 32? Look, I've been awake for less than an hour, so I think I'm doing okay. If my math's wrong, forgive me. And I had to figure this out because no one was telling me how to raise my child in a way that fostered relationship. And so when I remarried when she was 8, I was able to actually stay home. And that made a world of difference because I was able to really look at the relationship and say, what do I want? How is this benefiting her? How is this benefiting me? How is this going to go into the future? And what do I want for her? Who do I want her to have the opportunity to become? And what am I doing that's preventing that? And there was a whole hell of a lot I was doing to prevent that. Like, I was like, micromanage the bitch all the time. Because that's what I saw. That's what I knew. So do you want to do something different? If the answer is yes, then you have to work on healing yourself, healing your own scars, where they came from, and finding new ways to love yourself. And then you have to go to your child and say, hey, I was wrong. I'm so sorry. But let's work on this together. And when you approach your child as a peer, I'm not going to say as an equal because they're not equal. Let's face it, they don't pay the mortgage. They don't do any of that. But when you can approach them as an equal that has an opinion about their life, you give them back their voice. And that's really what they need. You need to respect their mind, their body, their spirit, and their voice. Those 4 things, mind, body, spirit, voice, will get your child to listen. It will get them to respect you because you're respecting them. And then it's going to also be able to take your relationship to the next level, which is get it out of codependency. Because no one really wants to be codependent on their child. That's kind of pathetic. Like, be interdependent. That's great. I'm interdependent on my children and my parents and my spouse all the time. Hey, you know what? I need help with this laundry. Can you please throw it in? I'm busy doing something else. Sure. But guess what? If I was like, go do that, they'd be like, fuck you, bitch. Like, I don't think so. Like, don't tell me what to do. They have the right to have their own voice. They have the right to have their own opinions. And you have the right as the parent to lead and say, hey, you know what? That language ain't okay. I really need your help. So, what questions can I ask or answer, not ask, can I answer for you guys? Since this is an Ask Me Anything morning, I think I'll do it on Fridays. It's kind of fun. Shoot away. Oh, it's so quiet. Do. Just waiting for questions so I can answer them. Do. Come on, the music's almost up and I'm off key. Do. Ah, guys, you're so quiet. You'd think you just woke up 25 minutes before the filming. Come on. Give me something good. Okay. Healing with my oldest has been taking interest in his things. Yes. Giving him space. Yes. Being respectful to him, listening to him. Any other ideas? Yeah, I actually do. He's going to be 13 or is 13 now, Maria. Remember you'd mentioned 13 at some point. 13's a tough age. Been there, done that. I'm coming up on my 4th one in 2.5 years. I love that you're giving him space and you are taking interest in his things and being respectful to him and listening to him. But what can you do with him? Okay, he's 13 now. Okay. Make sure you keep an eye on, believe it or not, how much space and how much sleep, etc. he has, because it's very easy at 13 to flip into depression and to know the difference. I would say some other things you could do with him is really just involve him. Ask him, hey, what do you need from me? How can I best lead you? How can I best be your mentor? What can I do that you need? And he's like, at least that's how I found 13-year-old boys talk in my life. I think that means I don't know. And they're not going to know. But it's constantly, hey, how can I best support you? How can I move forward? What do you need from me? Even though they can't answer that question, they're going to probably start thinking about, wow, well, what do I need? And it may just be, you know what, I need a grilled cheese sandwich. Okay, cool. Happy to do that. But when you enter space with him, especially at 13, you have to remember everything you do is wrong at 13. Everything that you breathe, how you breathe is wrong at 13. Okay? So let him have those moments, because really, his skin's on too tight. He's probably growing underneath that skin. He's miserable. Everything in his body hurts. His hormones hurt. His brain hurts. He's probably getting like that fuzz on the lip there. And although that's exciting, at the same time, like when that comes, man, you know the other hair is coming, right? And the armpit hair is kind of exciting. But that hair down there, I don't know, it's just kind of weird, right? And their whole body is changing. And suddenly there are girls with boobies. That's like super exciting. Or there's other boys, if they happen to be into the same gender, there's other boys with like other little mustaches going on. Give them time and space. Let them know that he's been able to code and make video games. Totally not my interest, but I'm learning. Exactly. Meet him where he is, because the truth of the matter is he doesn't live in your world. He just doesn't. He can never live in your world because it doesn't exist anymore. And I think that's one of the things as parents that's sometimes really hard to remember. Like last night, Sarah and I were watching a YouTube video laying in bed waiting for the cough medicine to kick in. And it was fashions of 1996 or 97, fashions of 1997, right? Now, I'm just sort of giggling because that was the year I was pregnant with Elizabeth. And I'm thinking, oh, these don't look weird to me. And she's laughing all the way. She's like, Mom, look at that. I'm like, oh. Okay, yeah, so, oh, he's hungry all the time. Yes, so we talk a lot about food. Yes, this is a great time to teach him about healthy eating and choices. This is I remember when my stepson lived with us when he was 13. Oh my God, Costco was my best friend. And their friends would come over every day after school. And at the time I had 4 kids. So I have 2 stepkids and I have my 2. At this point, my 2 only live with us. My 2 stepkids, one is graduating from college this year and one is a sophomore in college. She moved out at 14 to go live with her aunt, and he moved out at 13 to go back live with his mom because she was finally stable. So, I didn't have that whole teenage experience, but vicariously he'd come visit and stuff. She hasn't talked to us in 8 years, I think it is, and that's kind of heartbreaking, but that's her choice and not ours. But food, oh my God, the trips to Costco was $500 every week. It was insane. And it was when gas was $5 a gallon, which was even more insane. But yeah, take this time, spend time with him in the kitchen. Do more than Tostino pizza rolls. Teach him how to make broth. Teach him how to make pizza from scratch. Give him life skills that he's going to use from here forward. Teach him how to cut things. My God, Elizabeth's going to go get paid $8.50 an hour to cut vegetables. Great. I can't get the kid in the kitchen, but they can because they're going to pay her. But teach him things that are going to be important. Teach him about, managing his time. Because what is cooking all about? Getting in the right time. I mean, come on, let's all admit, raise your hand if you stress out over holiday meals and making sure they're timed correctly. Hello. Yeah. Okay. It's basic little things like that. Have a food fight. I mean, seriously. What, you're in Florida? Have a food fight. They're so much fun. Okay, he's very emotional. Yes, and it's like a roller coaster. Yep. Remember when you were pregnant? Yep. What do you do in those moments when they are losing it? Seems like he almost wants an argument. I try not to engage in the argument. Maybe he does want an argument. Maybe he really does. And is there anything wrong with wanting an argument? I mean, sometimes, come on. When PMS is flaring, you're like, come on, bring it on, bitch. I'll take you on. Maybe he does. Ask him point blank, do you want an argument? That'll be like, what? Be like, sure. You pick the topic. Let's argue over it. And then you keep it on topic. A lot of times just let it roll off. But he obviously needs something to push against. Can he go beat up you laugh at me all you want, but it's true, you want. You're like, come on, bitch. Or take him for French fries and a chocolate shake. I mean, that's awesome. And teach him to dip the French fries in the chocolate shake. I don't care whether you've got a penis or vagina. That's just freaking good stuff. All right? But teach him how to take care of himself in those moments. What he's really asking is, how do I deal with this emotion that's too big for me? So if you are reacting to his emotion that's too big for him to handle, then all you're teaching him is that you react. You don't know how to handle it. You are the one who has no idea how to handle this, so you're just going to fly off the handle and give it right back to him. Really? Teenagers, if you subtract 10 years from their age, that's pretty much what they are. So if he's 13, he's acting like a 3-year-old, right? But with a 13-year-old body and a 13-year-old stature and a 13-year-old vocabulary. Yeah. So I would say as long as it doesn't get physical. And at 13, between 13 and 16 is usually when boys come into their prowess and they want to assert themselves. It used to be when they would actually go out into the forest with their fathers and go hunting. Like the men would take the prepubescent or the pubescent boys and remove them from the women because they're freaking psycho. They can't help it. They're just psycho 13 to 15-year-olds with hormones flying all over, anger flying all over, right? Yeah. And hungry all the time. Imagine what great hunters they were. They'd probably be like, oh my God, that's a deer. I can gnaw on that rock. Okay, that's where they are. You have to remember, we really haven't developed much from our hunter-gatherer days. We still have the same drives. We just have a much more fancy life with books and dogs that are domesticated and stuff. But remember, his emotions are too big for him. How do you want someone to handle you when your emotions are too big for you? Let's face it. Ours get too big for us, right? PMS sucks. And, they live in that state of being for years on end. Be gentle, but lead, don't manage. It's totally okay to have whatever mood he's having, but it's not okay to come out and vomit it on everybody else. What he's asking is, how do I handle this? I don't know, and I'm frightened. So you have to decide what works best in your family dynamic. In our family dynamic, it's, honey, you're allowed to have any mood you want. That's what your bedroom's for, or the bathroom if they share a room, okay? What you're not allowed to do is come out here and engage other people in your bad mood. You're welcome to come out here and say, I don't know how to deal with this. Can we go for a walk? Can we go for a drive? Can we go for a bike ride? Any of that. But you are not allowed to come out into the main scope of the house and vomit your mood on anyone. That's totally not okay. But you are allowed to be angry. You're allowed to be sad. You're allowed to be mad. You're allowed to have any emotion you want. But you're not allowed to be abusive. So that's how we've handled it. And it actually helps them find vocabulary and like proper vocabulary for what that emotion is. And sometimes my kids will be like, Mom, I don't know what I'm feeling. I'm like, all right, well then take a step back. Think about it. Well, I don't want to. I just blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, blah all you want. But don't blah at me. That's totally not okay. Go to your room and blah, blah, blah. Sometimes we just need to. Maybe if he likes to write, maybe he could write. If he likes to code, maybe that's a great time to take that passion and just like bang the fuck out of a keyboard. I like that. But help lead him into a better way of handling those emotions. That's the best advice I have, because that's what he's asking is, how do I handle this? And what you're doing is you're setting up that pattern for the rest of his life. So if you're reacting, you're teaching him you don't know either. And maybe you don't know. So I just made a Zen room. I saw that for children. Oh my God, I want that. I want like those mandalas up on my wall. This is my Zen room here. You see, this is my, well, that's my husband's TV. I never turn the damn thing on. He loves it. But we have, and then outside we have a, what is that thing called? A hammock. So that's pretty cool too. Okay, we also have a drum set for banging on. Yes, give him an outlet that's healthy. Sometimes you just need to be heard and you need to bang the fuck out of something. Like just beat it. We used to have a punching bag, and then that ended up like breaking knuckles, so we got rid of it because Lizzie's built like a little birdie bone. So now we go for walks, or we go for drives, or you scream into a pillow or punch the hell out of a pillow. And sometimes, now boys generally probably don't want this, but we have a weighted blanket, and sometimes that's really just what Elizabeth needs. Sarah hasn't hit that point yet. She's just starting those roller coasters at 10.5, but Lizzie, she gets them all the time. Gotta love bipolar. All right. Is there anything else that I can answer before we wrap up this morning? Because we've covered grandparents, how to talk so your kids will listen, and where to start, what to do with teenagers that have emotions that are way too big. Is there anything else that I can answer before we wrap up and I can reheat my coffee? Because I need it. I literally am not awake yet. All right. Awesome. So then we're good. All right. So I will see you guys Monday morning. If you want, I wrote a couple new blogs this week as well as vlogging every day. Can you believe it? So go to maryharrington.com. That's MaryHerrington. And check them out. Let me know what you think of them. If you have any suggestions for Monday, put them down bottom. And if you are watching this on replay, let me know where you're from. Give me a thumbs up. And I will see you guys Monday morning. Take care. Bye-bye.